Welcome to the Superconscious Success Podcast, where Jen and her Superconscious Success family co-hosts bring you valuable content each and every week on topics relating to manifestation, spirituality, and most of all, using your superconscious to manifest success in all areas of your life. Now on to today's episode.
Hey there, Super Conscious Success fam. Welcome to another episode of my podcast where I connect with spiritual leaders, starseeds, and light workers to help you to connect with your higher self and source to discover your truth and embrace the divine being you are designed to be. So this podcast is aimed at helping you to discover the light both outside and within you and eliminate the fear that our 3D reality and our ego insists on pushing onto us. Once we discover who we truly are and we live from a place of love rather than fear, then we can ascend into the higher dimensions. So in today's podcast, I have another beautiful soul with me. She is the founder of the iHeart Academy Life Coaching Certification, and she lives her purpose of helping others to transform their mind, body, and spirit. On today's show, I have a very good friend of mine and one of the most genuine, authentic people I have the pleasure of knowing, and her name is Renee Marcou. Renee and I first met when my co-host Karl and I interviewed her on Your Spiritual Shift podcast segment, and we had an instant connection. She's the host of the Namastee with Renee podcast, which I recently had the pleasure of being on, and it was so much fun. Now, I could go on and on and on talking about this beautiful woman, but I want to get into it and let her shine her light upon you all. So, hey, Renee, how are you today, my sweet?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me here. Hello to all your listeners out there.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I've been really excited to have you on and to share your story, to share a little bit of little nuggets about the universe, manifestation, and a whole heap of other stuff that we're going to cover. But how about we start off, because your story is interesting. How about we start off and you tell my listeners how you came to be doing what you're doing now?
Oh, well, that was quite the journey because flashback when I first started my career, I definitely didn't see myself in this position where I'm at today. So it's kind of amazing to see how your intentions unfold over time and how your shifts and your energy and your focus, kind of expand into all new and improved and better ways. So my first career started at age 15 as a singer. I came into the world knowing that I was going to be using my voice for a major purpose. And as a kid, I was just grew up thinking and knowing that I would be a professional singer. It just was this, kind of this heart's calling that had been placed upon me because let me tell you, I was one shy girl. I didn't want to have anything to do with anybody looking at me. I did not want to be in the spotlight. I was so painfully shy as a kid and like even into my teen years that it's like funny looking back and seeing how much I've had to overcome just in my own self-confidence and self-esteem to be able to even go out there and be on a stage as a singer. So yeah, that's where it all began. To this day, I still sing, of course, and still performing, still recording and everything. But I also have, like you had mentioned, opened up a life coaching business over 12 years ago. At the time of this recording, it was 12 years ago. And it's been an incredible journey ever since. And just, you know how it is when you align to that spiritual calling and you have this beautiful energy, this source, like really guiding you forward and helping you be the conduit be for the clients that you're serving and those that you're out there, teaching. It's just such a divine experience. And I could literally do it all day for all of my hours.
I know exactly what you mean. Once you actually reach that purpose and you actually discover what you are actually put here to do. And, my purpose, I believe I was put here for connection, and it's about connecting with other people. It's about connecting other people to one another. But more than that, it's about that connection with our higher self and that connection with source. Because I think that once we can tap into that power, I think that we're a nonstop force, and we've got the ability to create some amazing stuff in this world. Now, Renee has got the most beautiful voice, and I'm pretty sure that you've got some stuff up on YouTube, haven't you?
I do. Yes.
I did check
a lot
out
of
some
videos out there.
yeah. So that's interesting because you started off, were you always kind of like, did you always have that spiritual side? Did you always have like from a very young age?
Yes, definitely.
So
I
it was,
remember like
yeah.
being the youngest I was, like remembering those moments in time, feeling like I had this superpower behind me that even though on the outside world, right, like my family and my close friends in the neighborhood and stuff didn't really ever like talk about this kind of
Mm.
world, I still knew that it was real and it was valid and it was guiding me. You know, my grandmother, actually my mom's mother, really instilled a lot of spiritual magic in me, if you will. So she
Okay.
was very aware and awakened. And as a kid, I was just like, of course, soaking it all up, right? And we would do some cool like manifesting things together, which nowadays and not even that it wasn't there back then, but nowadays the term is manifesting, right? And it's like
Yeah.
she and I were doing that young when I was, you know, just to feel like I was just a babe. And that was really the door opener to it, but I didn't know that it actually was proven law. I didn't know that there was, you know, that exact source that was actually like quantum physics. So
Yeah.
it just blew the door open for me. And I do feel she passed away when I was 9 years old, and I do always still feel her spirit still within me. And
Yeah.
a lot of my family members can see that as well too. And my mom's also a Reiki master, and she is
Oh, wow.
does Reiki with crystals. Yeah. So the spirituality has really been in my
Yeah.
world since young, but it wasn't a common conversation, you know?
Okay.
I was definitely
And
like, oh, Renee's boo, Renee's out there. Or like, oh, like, well, what's gonna come out of her mouth now? You know,
of course, because I think like back then, years ago, whenever there was that spirituality side, it was a lot more religion based
yes.
back then. And I know even
Mhm.
myself, I used to go to church with my nan and that as well, like weekly. I
Mhm.
got baptized and everything else. But so I knew the principles behind it, but there was always something that made me think something's missing. Did you get that
Right.
feeling like
Yes.
as you were
Yes.
going through this process, this awakening, you started
Mhm.
realizing there's some to this story that just does not add up?
Right.
Like
Exactly.
like
There are missing pieces.
yeah. And
Yeah.
this is what I believe that we're all put here to do. We're all
Yeah.
put here to figure out that truth. So
Hmm.
if you could define for the listeners um consciousness
Mm.
and the divine, how would you
Mm.
define that? How would you define what we mean by this term as we're going through this interview? um what is your interpretation of what consciousness, the collective consciousness, is, what the divine is?
Mm. So for me, the divine is that true connection of that wholeness and oneness that lies within you. So
Hmm.
it's that inner wisdom, it's the higher self, it's your future self, it's your inner child. It's this beautiful collection of who you are as a single individual being, as well as the divine connection to all that is, to the universe. I use the term the universe.
Yeah.
I find that it really helps people kind of lean in instead of using maybe another term that it feels a little more religious to certain
Yeah.
people. So that universe source that is just you, when you have this experience, to me, it feels like a plugging in
Yeah.
of this source, like you would plug in a toaster
Mhm.
into the outlet and you're just plugged in and you're receiving this gorgeous
The
energy
energy.
that
Yeah.
I don't know the word, if there's a word in English to describe it, because it really is just this expansion. It
Mhm.
feels like expansion. It feels like you're perfect where exactly you are. It feels like you are divinely guided. It feels like all is well in the world, right?
Yeah.
And that's like how I really describe that consciousness. And we can unplug to it sometimes subconsciously or unconsciously, sometimes willingly,
Yeah.
right? If we're like feeling like guilty or shame or something, or for whatever reason, but we can unplug from it, but we always can plug back in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as we go through our life, there are going to be some situations that pop
Mhm.
up, that because we're put here to learn lessons, and some
Definitely.
of those lessons are hard.
Yeah.
And so what we have to try to do as we're going through that awakening process, as we're going through that ascension, is to learn how we can start to tap into that higher part of us, tap into that consciousness, and allow our ego to step aside for a little bit, because our ego is causing that fear. And like you said, the guilt and the shame that often accompanies light workers, empaths. And so why do you think that things like guilt and shame show up? Do you think that's because of the ego or limited beliefs, or?
So I've learned over time to befriend the ego
Mhm.
because it's still a part of
Me
me
too,
and I
yeah.
still want to love myself fully and truly. So when I hear something come up, that makes, that it is a fear or a something, right? Because I told you, like,
Mhm.
I have so many, like when I was a kid, I was so fearful of everything. I was afraid to even be seen, right?
Yeah.
Even around my family. And for me, I feel like those fears were there for me to overcome. Like
Yeah.
those struggles were there for me to overcome them. So like if the universe is a friendly place, which is what I believe, and if my ego is actually on my side but might just be a little bit scared,
Mm.
I love her up like she's
Yeah.
a small child.
Yep.
And I do the things that I know I need to do with all the tools that I have in my spiritual toolbox. I literally call it that to all my
Yeah.
clients. And I have those tools and I break them out and I start to build the house back up, or I
Yeah.
build the idea back up, or I with affirmations, with mantras, with meditation, with literally the list keeps going on and on and on. But it's like these processes that actually help you break through those barriers and that help you see the fears as something a little bit like a warning sign, or maybe it's, because we still have the human brain, which
Yeah.
was like created millions of years ago, right? And we still have these senses within us to protect ourselves, to have to fight against saber-toothed tigers and all the scary big animals back then, right?
Because
And
we
like
come across them every day.
right. Like, but it is our
Yeah. Our
opportunity now
instinct.
that we don't have those anymore to really pull that back and say, okay, let's get this ego focusing on the direction we want to be going. And hey, that fear, like, it's okay. Thanks for bringing it forward. Now I have some work to do on it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I believe there
I
are
do it more of an
definitely
awareness.
I believe there are
Yeah.
definitely messages behind what the ego is trying to tell us. And like you, I believe it's a part of us. And I've heard people say to squash the ego, but we don't want to do that because the
Right.
ego is a part of us. The
Yeah.
the ego is there to, I mean, it does it in a really strange way, but it's there to try to protect us.
It is.
I
Yeah.
think what the problem is when the ego takes control, and then we can't hear the messages that the higher self's sending us. So
Right.
I think that's the thing, where when it comes to what I call downloads and
Mhm.
messages from the higher self, it's like if the ego is causing fear within us or any of these negative emotions, we don't hear those messages coming through.
Right. We actually start to really take that plug out of the
Yeah.
source that we were talking about before, and we start to, like, not every time, but sometimes and oftentimes we start to kind of go down maybe a little downward spiral of like, oh yeah, like I've got to prove my ego right and I've got to make things harder, or like I got to prove my ego right and I have to believe that, this challenge is never going to be overcome.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to watch ourselves as conscious beings and deliberate creators and say, all right, is this actually serving me? What can I do to this belief that is
Mhm.
going to bring me downstream and bring me up the emotional scale toward happiness?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It comes down to our belief system. It comes down to our past beliefs. It comes down to all our limited beliefs. And if we can work on that and start to really figure out, our self-worth. I mean, our self-worth plays a massive part in this.
Yes.
And so I think that, like you said, if we can work on that and we can start to recognize how amazing we are as human beings and what
Yes.
potential we have, instead of having these blocks that
Right.
are stopping us from really expanding, because fear is there as a message, but also to help us to expand,
Yeah.
as are other emotions, even emotions like guilt and shame. Well, they're there with a message
Yeah.
to help you to start to love yourself more.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
that's how I see like guilt and shame. It's like, okay, you can start to break down, why do I feel like this? And then at
Mhm.
that point, that's when you go, okay, it's time to love myself enough to know that, that I'm whole as I am, and that, I'm a human being that possibly makes mistakes or whatever it is. And so, yes, I think, and that's the same with any of the emotions. They're
Yes.
just they're just messages. So if we're talking about manifestations, as we were, the universe is an amazing place. It's a beautiful place that has so much potential. And so we know that we can manifest whatever we desire. What do you think is, if you could list off a couple of things, what do you think would be the main reason why people aren't able to manifest their dream life?
Immediately what comes through to me is the fear of change, the fear of actually being who they want to be
Yeah.
because of maybe some past conditioning or just what has been normal their whole life.
Yeah.
There is something too, like stepping out and stepping up and becoming the version of yourself that you know you're here to be,
Yeah.
right? There can be some, oh my goodness, like this feels really scary, or like, what if I'm like alone at the top, or like, what if I cross this barrier? Who am I
The
going
fear
to
of
lose in my
success.
life?
That's the thing.
Right. There's actually, right. That is a real thing. And I think that's what comes through most to me. And when I actually read this quote, it feels like a million years ago, by Marianne Williamson, she says that our fear is, I never remember them verbatim, by the way, but it was basically.
Hey there, Super Conscious Success fam. Thanks so much for joining me in this interview. And I'm just taking a short break in the interview just to let you know about an exciting offer that I have for you. I'm just in the process of building the Super Conscious Success Inner Circle, which is going to be a free membership that you're going to be able to get access to, which is going to eventually, once I've got it all built up, include courses and exclusive content and a whole heap of other stuff that's going to be available for you to help you to expand that consciousness and to come into your power. And it'll include content from all of my different segments, from Super Conscious Success, Your Spiritual Shift, Raising a Conscious Human, and also Peace and Prosperity. And you'll include content from all of that, as well as the Self-Empowered Empath, Higher Self-Mastery, and a whole heap of other different collaborations and projects I have on the go. However, to get this free membership, you do need to go and sign up. So if you go to superconscioussuccess.com/inner circle, you can sign up absolutely free for it. As the content builds and I reach 1,000 subscribers, I will then be making it a premium product, which means that you will no longer get it for free. It will be a monthly charge. But if you get in now and you get into the free membership, then you will have that free for life. So head across now as we're in the building phase, and you'll start to get more and more awesome content flowing in. And yeah, so head on over there now, superconscioussuccess.com/inner circle. Now let's head on back to the interview.
Like your fear is more about success than it is about failure.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really where I feel that can be, because here's a thought that comes through when I think about that and put myself in that person, that vision. And it can be, okay, so what if I go for it and then if I fail? Or what if I go for it and it's not what I thought it was going to be, right? So it like kind of keeps us like along the edge, and we're like, okay, we'll swim along the edge, but we're not going to go in the deep end. What if I get to the deep end, right? And it's like all these stories that we come up with,
and
because
I think
we don't have the answer.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, one of the fears that we have is, okay, if I go for it, what about if I lose people along the way?
Yeah,
That
was definitely a huge fear for me.
Yeah, it's like, what if they don't accept me for the person that I am? And I know that as we start to spiritually awaken and we start to go on our own ascension process, you can lose people along the way, because that is what is supposed to be happening.
Yes.
And that's the thing, it will remove people from your lives that are not meant to be there, and that's scary for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, but I've known these people my whole life, and what if they don't accept me for now that I'm some big hotshot CEO or something? What if they don't accept me? Or what if I win all this money or make all this money and then these people turn on me? You know, it is the relationships that we form in life. It can be a real fear for some people.
For sure. And I totally understand that, because I went through that myself when I was really starting to put myself out there as like this spiritual woo person that's, very grounded, but I also am consciously manifesting. Like I'm literally showing people what's possible through what I'm manifesting in my life. And that took a lot for me to stand up and step out, because I was like, all right, the people there's going to be people I'm going to lose along the way. I prayed it wasn't anybody in my family. But I lost tons of friends throughout the process, and it's okay though, because I also believe too, that if we change the story around what it looks like to lose somebody, maybe it's that your soul's contract had a completion. Maybe it's that you weren't being served in the way that you were giving to them, right? It's always for the best. And when you raise up, you start attracting people who are like-minded to you. So it's not like you lose one person and that void is there forever. It's like there's going to be people along the path that meet you where you are and that help you become better. I mean, look at us right now, right? Like if I stayed that shy little girl my whole life, which I easily could have, I wouldn't be having conversations with you for your listeners on my podcast with you and all the other people I have on either. So it's like, I didn't meet you when you and I were children, right? We met because we've up leveled so many different times that now we're vibrating in the same realm.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that that's the thing. We can also look at it, as you say, the soul contract that could have ended. We've got, karmic ties to different people in our lives that have been put here for a lesson. It's been put here to teach you to expand and to grow. And these people are not meant to be in your life for your entire lifetime. And I remember my dad always saying, there's people in your life for either, what is it? It's either a time, what is it?
Like it's a lesson or a blessing or something like that.
It's kind of like they're either in your life for a certain amount of time, or they're in your life for a lifetime. But there's very few people. But he also said to me, if you have one true friend in your whole life, you're really lucky.
Exactly.
Because you find that people start to drop off as they have different interests, and some of them, I remember I lost friends as I decided to move countries and move states, and a lot of that I think was because they were scared. But I think that's the thing. We have to not be so fixated on not be so fixated on what could happen, not be so fixated on, oh, this person's out of my life, what have I done wrong, and how am I going to survive without them? Just have faith in source.
For sure. Yes. I have a lot of experience in that avenue too. I used to be totally heartbroken when friendships would fall apart or relationships, but it's really what you're making them mean to you, right? If they are your source for happiness, guess what? The universe is going to pluck them right out, because you have to be your source to happiness. Right. Like if that's how much we put into other people. And
this is where the codependency and stuff comes into, when we are so reliant on somebody else making us happy. And so I think, and the universe will sort it out so that you can move away from that codependency and go, I am enough as I am. I don't need anybody else to fulfill me and to make me feel whole.
Right. And how much better of a relationship will it be when you come to the table whole, when you come to the table plugged into the universe and source and saying, I'm already here. I'm here for a good time. Like I'm here to share my experiences with you, my stories, my awakened moments, my not so awakened moments, but I'm filled. I'm not looking for a validation from somebody. And it brings that relationship to a new level too, because you're not in any expectation of, oh my gosh, I have to save this person and vice versa. right?
Yeah.
It's like especially for empaths, when we get that like chip off,
Oh,
like, it's like that release. We're like, oh, great. Like we can come to the table and we can co-create together and we can have divine conversations.
yeah. And it is,
I'm calling your higher self, you're calling mine. Like it's
and that's
really
amazing
cool.
when you can start to do that. A very good friend of ours, Eleni, her and I
Yeah.
were actually creating a program called Higher Self Mastery, where we can teach people how they can connect to that higher self, and
Awesome.
which is so much fun. And it's going to be fantastic once it's done. But us as empaths, it's something we really struggle with because we want to help everybody.
Yes, of course.
And we have this desire to, like, to fix everything.
Mhm.
And so we need to start to recognize that we can't fix anybody else. They've got to fix themselves. And that's
Exactly.
part of their journey. And so I'm actually creating a program called the Self-Empowered Empath, with another collaborator of mine, where we actually show empaths how they can start to, move away from that codependency, narcissistic abuse, all that sort of stuff that tends to show up, and
Mhm.
power up and
Yeah.
become the best version of themselves. And I think that is really important. And I think that one question I wanted to ask you was, when it comes to manifestation, and we were talking about the different reasons why people might not be able to manifest, I think a lot of it is because sometimes we can stay in a mode of victimization. We can stay in that mode of, I don't want to take responsibility for where I am right now. What part do you think the victimization and responsibility has to play when it comes to us creating that dream life?
So I believe that is truly 100% your responsibility in
Mm-hmm.
creating the dream life, because the universe is your partner in that source, right?
Yep.
So when we're plugged in, we know, hey, we are whole, full, and complete. And I am here to co-create with you, because the universe says, honey, give me the target. I'm bringing you everything that you want. Give me the target. But if you're like, well, I don't really know what the target is. Well, I think I want this, but I want this. And like the moving target, like how can the universe hit it? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it's 100% everybody's own individual responsibility to be the co-creator, to say, hey, source, hey, universe, this is what I really want to experience in my life. And this goes without saying, but it's beyond material, right?
Yeah.
It's relationships, it's your business, it's your soul's purpose, it's everything.
Yes.
And you say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And then the universe can respond. And then it is your responsibility again to follow up. So when the universe responds by putting you in certain people's site, or being like on a podcast, for example, it's
Yeah.
like you hear the call, you pick up, you got to go and take action, inspired action. And inspired and action just means aligned action. When you
Yeah.
know deep inside that this is like, okay, yes, of course, I'm going to show up here to be able to speak to whoever I need to
Yeah.
manifest whatever it is that I'm looking to manifest. So, and then when it comes to, you said victim, right? Was the other word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So victimizing, to me, this hit me hard when I was like, I think the first few years of conscious manifesting, I learned this. And when you victimize yourself, you're giving your power away.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving it away.
Yep.
You're just saying everything that I just said about being a deliberate creator and being plugged in, co-creating. You're literally going, nope,
Yep.
I don't even want this. And it's confusing to the universe, because it's like, oh, all right, then we're just going to keep giving you what you are already in the vibration of.
Yeah.
So and victimizing, really, who wants to give their power away? I don't know about you, but I'm a control freak over my life, in the sense of like, I take control over like what's manifesting throughout the entire day, let
Yeah.
alone years, right?
And that's
I
good.
have
That's good or bad stuff. It's like, if something good
everything.
happens, that's my responsibility. If something bad
Yes,
happens, that's my responsibility, because it's based on my
exactly.
vibration at that time.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Deliberate creation at its finest, everybody. There,
Yeah.
she said
Absolutely.
it.
And that's the thing. And this is what we need to start to tap into, is no matter what's happening in your life, it's nobody else's fault. I'm
No,
sorry, this is hard to
no,
hear, because
I
it's so
know.
much easier just to tell someone else, but
Yes.
you're to blame for what I'm going through. But
Right.
it is nobody else's fault what we are going through. It is up to us to make the change in our thinking, make the change in our vibration. And that's what I want to talk to you about, because People, Renee is one of the highest vibration beings that I know since I've known her. She's just like a beacon of light. And so I wanted to talk to you about vibration, because emotions and vibration very closely linked.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we talk about the emotional guidance scale and how we can move up that scale and we can move away from certain emotions, remember though, people, that emotions are just a tool. They're just like a, what do you call it? Like a barometer as to how your vibration is at that particular time. So can you explain to my listeners what we mean by the term vibration? Because the law of vibration works right alongside the law of attraction. The two cannot go without each other. It just doesn't happen. So can you explain what we mean when we say vibration, and give us some ways that we can start to lift our vibrations if we're in kind of that state of worry or fear or something like that? How can we lift our vibrations to start to have that trust and, you know, move away from those lower vibrations?
So we'll start by defining it, so everybody is very clear on what we mean by vibration. It's the same word that I also use back and forth with frequency. So what that means is where you're currently at, where you're currently vibrating. So if you are plugged in and you're feeling this vibration of joy, you're going to attract like experiences within and without, more thoughts that also provide this experience of joy. Same thing goes for any emotion. Like you said, the emotions are like a barometer. I like to look at them as well as like a radio station. So it's like, what station are you plugged into? Are you vibrating, having that frequency, feeling the emotions? The emotions will show you what you're vibrating in, by the way. Having that vibration set to this channel, which feels amazing and like joy filled and all these cool things. And you're just feeling so high vibrationally, right? I talk that language all the time. High vibrations. Yeah. That's the joy, the love, the compassion, the excitement, the abundance, all of those good feelings. Or are you tuned into a station that's making you feel like less than desirable, like lack mindset, feeling, you know, easily, even as I say these words, you can feel that they feel different. All those lower ones, right? So I'm like, let's tap out of that real quick. But where are you stationed into? Because that's going to tell the universe, hey, I want more experiences like that, that make me feel like this, right? So it is our responsibility, again, here comes that word again, right? To be so aware of how we are vibrating via the emotional skill, via how am I feeling in this moment? And sometimes people are like, oh, well, I'm not like conscious all day long, which that's true. The subconscious is powered up between like 60 and 70% of your day. So if you want to start fine tuning your frequency, start fine tuning your vibration in the sense of how am I feeling in this moment? Constantly checking in on that. How am I feeling? On a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel right now? That's the most simplest question, but it's so meaningful. How am I feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? I say 10 is all those high vibrations. I say 1 is all the lower vibrations. Where am I currently at? And that is your current point of attraction.
Yeah. And I think it's I know that when I'm in that high joy vibration, it's kind of like your heart is, because your heart opens up and it's kind of like your heart's about to jump out of your chest. It's such a, like, you're just so excited and things are just like, everything's just aligning. Everything's in the flow. And when we're in that higher vibration, that's when source is downloading to us. Because we're of the same vibration as what our higher self, source, the angels, whatever divine you're connecting with, you've got to be at that really high vibration to be able to match up with them.
Exactly.
So this is why it's so important for us to stay on that plane. But in saying that, there are times when we may feel sad or we may feel angry or and don't you think that it's really important at those times that we just love that emotion?
Yes.
And
I think it's important to feel through it.
Yeah.
To not just completely just like try to push it on the rug or be like, no, I only want to vibrate at joy. Like you'll get back to joy.
Yeah.
Feel through that anger.
Yeah.
Maybe something just brought it up in you that just needs to be moved through your body.
Yeah.
And just, sadness. Oh my goodness. I could tell you so many experiences of sadness,
Yeah.
right?
I think
can
we all
easily
have.
tap into sadness.
Mm.
But when I feel sadness, I allow myself to feel sadness.
Mm-hmm.
So the emotional energy can now leave my body.
Yeah.
And then you create a void for the universe to bring in higher vibrational frequencies once again.
Yeah. And that's really important, because it's when we suppress it that it becomes a problem, because then it kind of stays stuck within your system.
Yes, it does. It stays stuck in the system, and then it starts telling our mind all of these lack thoughts, or all of these woe is me, or I'm a victim, right? Kind of going full circle in the conversation.
Yep.
So if we're able to feel through them, allow ourselves the experience of feeling the emotion, and be mindful. Oh, what is it that's really making me sad? Oh, it's this. Oh my goodness. I never really mourned this. Or maybe, I could find some closure, do some affirmations for myself to feel a little bit better around the subject.
Yeah.
Right. Then it's like, okay, it's moving through the body. I don't tell my clients to get stuck there. I say 60 to 120 seconds is it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need to move through the emotion. Oftentimes it happens in a nanosecond, and it's a flash. So it's like, okay, cool. Now I can get back on. But here's what we do as people. Sometimes we're funny. As humans, when we start to attach a story, why we should or should not feel sad, or why, but other people don't feel sad about this, so I shouldn't. So we don't allow ourselves our truth of the emotional flow.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and allow yourself to be the emotion.
And you know what? If you're feeling angry or you're feeling upset, often I'll put a timer on it, and I'll go, okay,
there you go.
You have got 3 minutes, and you can write as much down as you want about it. You can talk about it. You can do whatever you want. And then once that 3 minutes is up, that's it. You've worked through the emotion. You know why you felt it. You've accepted it. You say, I love you, but it's time to move on. And then you can start to move back up that scale again, because once you can actually figure out the reason why you're actually feeling like that, what the message is, why it's telling you this, you can, when you're dealing with anger, well, you know what your trigger is. How can you deal with the maybe inner child trauma that's happened, which has triggered that particular situation?
Exactly. Yes. This is where that juicy stuff happens. Oh, when I have clients who want to work on that, I'm just like, yes, this is going to be so juicy and amazing. But it's so true, because yes, if you're not just moving through the emotion, then you can really see, that's some great insight as to why I'm holding on to something like this. This is bringing something up in me. And it's just bringing up those old seeds or the old roots that no longer vibrate with who you are and who you're becoming. So it's okay to uproot those and say, this is my trigger. Let's do something about this.
And inner child work is so important and
beautiful.
Can be so difficult, because it's that you really having to get in touch with what has happened in the past, with what's kind of been blocking you. And so it can be tough, but like you said, this is when we really start to recognize where that guilt and shame and all of those lower emotions have come from. Once you can figure that out,
you learn more about yourself. Right. And it's a process that can bring up a lot of tears, maybe like these emotions that we are less than desirable, but it also helps you learn more about yourself. And so if any type of situation like that comes up in your future, you know how to handle it, or you know how to stick up for yourself, or you know how to use your voice, you know how to activate your heart center, whatever it is for each and every person's story who's listening. It's all about, what can I do to make it better in the future too? So the inner child work is like so juicy and so amazing. And I was always a person who wanted to go there, because I'm just a curious George. Like, I just want to know. I want to figure myself out. I want to love myself all the way, fully and completely. I want to see myself the way that the universe sees me. Source, God, goddess, whatever you believe in. It's how that amazing source sees me. And I want to be a light channel to people in the world. So it's only responsible of me to be willing to go to those parts of me that are the shadows or the inner child healing, because I want to be a pristine channel to those that I'm serving.
Absolutely. That is so well said. And I think that it is really important that we as light workers tap into that inner child side, tap into that shadow side, and start to evolve and make sure that we're kind of doing what we can to be the best channel that we can, to be the best vehicle, the best vessel that we possibly can for source, so we can help as many people as possible. So wow, there has been so much content in this podcast, Renee, seriously. But I want you to tell our listeners all about your iHeart Academy, because I think that's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. So the iHeart Academy, like I said, I've been coaching for over 12 years. This particular program certifies people in my unique method to manifesting and having your own coaching business. So I consider myself a high-level coach. I position myself like that in the market because I coached all different areas of life, and everything that you learn inside of my academy in this particular program is how you can coach anybody on anything.
Nice.
Right. And it really helps you own your expertise so that you can really get your clients results, because you've been there already. So this program really will awaken so many juicy goodies that you can really implement in your business, and also how to get your programs sold out and how to, really be of service to the clients that you're calling in by standing in your empowerment. So it's such a beautiful process. And all of the clients that I've had go through this coaching program, like walk out, they're like at like a beauty school, they like walk out and they're feeling like fresh and all confident and all like gorgeous, like, because it's like that inner radiance, just boom, you become that quantum vessel. And so that's what I love that program so much, because I have so much of my heart goes into it, because it brings out such a freedom lifestyle for anybody who wants to have their own coaching business or programs. It literally just allows you to make money on your terms, allows you to serve the people that you want on your terms. You don't have to, deal with any grouchy people. Like if they're not a match, they're not a match. Like you don't have to serve the whole wide world. Right. And then it's just, you get so much out of it for yourself too. And that's another huge reason why I just love this program. And the iHeart Academy, we have some other programs as well. And one of them happens to be the inner child healings. So I have a 12-week program for my clients who want to really activate the inner child and go through those, times that may have feel a little bit wounded, and do some healing around it so that the inner child is on your team now and not just, pulling you or holding you back from your dreams, whatever that may look like to you.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think, it's so great. Is anybody able to do this? It's not restricted to anybody, or?
No. So honestly, I would, as long as there's a match for the program, anybody can join, right? It's not going to be for just the open public. That's, only, everybody can join, right? You have to have a certain level of
awareness.
Awareness is the right word. And if you're willing, and maybe this is like a first step for you, because I know for me, when I first started my coaching back in the day, I didn't have all the answers, didn't have all the skills back then, right? This is accumulated over 12, probably more like 15 years, but I just never do the math on it. All of this time, right? So you really can come from wherever you are. And if you are feeling activated, I already hold you in my space. So it's just an easy conversation. Anybody I've talked to about it has literally been aligned to it. So there wasn't, much of a, like a salesy thing going on. It's just like, I'm meant to be here, and we're just accepting of it.
and that's the thing. It's so fantastic, because even with my podcast guests, it's all aligned. It's all based on intuition. It's always based on who we feel the most aligned with. So we always know that our guests are going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because there's no other option.
Exactly.
So I definitely think that my listeners, it's definitely something to think about with the iHeart Academy. Sounds amazing. And before we do head off, I would like you to give us 3 things that you implement on a daily basis, which can help somebody to stand in their power and to raise their vibration.
Oh, goody. I love this question. Okay. So first and foremost, it begins with meditation. It doesn't matter if it's a 1-minute meditation, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, whatever you can fit into your life. Start the day off with meditation. Start the day from that high flying disc that you've just been on throughout your whole sleep. And then keep that vibration going as you come into your consciousness. Pop into a meditation of service to you. I actually have a couple meditations out there as well. So I don't know if you want to include a link, but anyone's welcome to receive my free meditations. I have a couple free ones out there. So you basically just want to keep on that high flying disc as long as you can and become that deliberate creator. Set your day up for that, right?
Yeah.
And then what I like to do is mirror work right after that. So once I've got out of bed, I'm already going into my routine of fixing up my body, my appearance, all these things, right? And I look into the mirror and I start to look at myself and I'm like, all right, well, what are we creating today? What's the vibration of today? What do you need right now in order to get to a higher vibrational place? And when I ask myself that question, what do I need right now? I'm literally like, oh, it's like an overflow. It makes me feel like, okay, cool. Even if I'm not at a 10 from waking up or meditating and I'm like dancing around an 8 or a 9, like I can bring myself up to that next level because I'm checking in on what does Renee need. So you just ask yourself, right? Maybe it's like a peach. Maybe it's an apple. Maybe it's, water with tons of lemon. Which are all very good for you. All of those are tools too. And then finally, I'll share, I'm a huge fan of writing. So I love to journal anything down. I'll write letters to my loved ones. I will write letters to myself, like literally all in one journal. I'll write about what my dreams were the night before, because sometimes in the future they will have meaning for me. And I'm like, oh, that was a gift the angels are giving me during my sleep. So I know, okay, this is happening or this is coming. So, or a gratitude journal. That's the easiest way to start it. That's the easiest way. And then that way you're setting your whole morning and the rest of your day up deliberately by choosing the vibration of gratitude and all these other high vibrational feelings that you want to have for the remainder of your day.
Absolutely fantastic. 3 of my favorites. You know that I'm a big meditation person. I love my mirror work, and my scripting is like so powerful. So thank you so much for that, Renee. And we've got so much incredible information here for people to be able to hear and to be able to see your beautiful light. And I thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, this was so much fun. And I can't wait to come back on your show and serve your listeners again.
Absolutely. Can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for your time, Renee.
Thank you so much for yours.
Okay. Bye.